everyone, welcome to today's session where we're going to resume our analysis of the essay In Praise of Ignorance by Hilaire Belloc. As we have already discussed in the previous section where Belloc was stating the fact that our field of knowledge is very small as compared to the vast ocean of ignorance, and he also seemed to be of the view that becoming aware of one's ignorance is always good as it leads towards learning. So let's see what Belloc says next. I am reading the text. The modern system of examination, already menaced, has been very justly blamed by the wisest and the best. So here, beginning with the mention of this modern system of examination, he is saying that most people regard modern system of examination as a menace or threat, or we can say danger, and these are the people who are or whom we call wise or best. Next line. One of the less wise and not so good shall here say something in its favor, but there are some people, there are people who may be less wise and not so good like Belloc, who may be in the favor or who may say some things in the favor of examination. According to them, examination is not a menace, it has some good things too. Anyone who has sat for an examination has had a vivid revelation of his own ignorance, because they give in the favor of those people, the second one, one of the less wise and not so good people. According to them, examination is not menace, it is good, because anyone who has sat or who has attempted an examination, he had this experience of a clear revelation of his own ignorance, because it is in the examination only when a person happens to be aware, or this revelation or this disclosure occurs to him that how ignorant he is, or the things which seemed to him very familiar are not familiar to him actually, or he is not that good in them as he used to think. And these type of revelations occur in examination only. So that's why examination is not menace in this way. I have written answers to perhaps 100 examination papers in my time, and my attitude towards each of the wretched printed things as it lay before me was one of violent bewilderment, loss of foothold, sinking into the abyss. So now it is our encounter with ignorance which we can find in examination. That's why examinations are good. So here he is sharing his own experience, when he happened to face the examination paper. I have written answers to perhaps 100 examination papers. He himself has attempted. That's why with experience he is saying that examinations are good, because it is through examinations that he came face to face to his ignorance, and then which led him to learning. After revelation of his ignorance only led him to learning. So what happened? I have written answers to perhaps 100 examination papers in my time, and my attitude towards each of the, and whenever I faced examination paper, each of those 100 examination papers, each of the wretched printed things. Now here these wretched printed things are question papers. My attitude towards those question paper as it lay before me, what used to be the attitude of Belloc when he used to face those wretched printed things, was one of violent bewilderment, that I used to be in extreme confusion or extreme perplexity, that whenever he used to face the question papers, those wretched printed things, his attitude, his response, or his condition used to be a violent bewilderment. He used to lose his foothold. As earlier he used to think that I am so good in these things, but he used to lose his foothold. He used to lose his secure position or comfort zone, we can say. He used to lose his foothold after facing the examination, and after revealing, after this divulgence that he is not that good in that particular field of field on which that question paper is designed. So sinking into the abyss, and he used to feel so much ashamed during his examinations that he wanted to sink into the abyss, into any bottomless pit. He wanted to descend in that. So such experiences he had, as he had attempted 100 examination papers. And in parenthesis he has also mentioned the condition in order to make his description lively. He is saying, I being then surrounded by dozens of other victims, that he is giving us a picture of examination hall where he was surrounded, or he used to be surrounded by dozens of other victims. Who are other victims? Other students or other candidates who were attempting that wretched printed thing. So they were also victims of that paper, because that was their encounter with their ignorance, each at his little desk, with and who used to be with all those candidates or students with an underpaid invigilator. So here is a put of gentle humor, that there used to be an invigilator who was underpaid. Now he was the supervisor of examination, who was not getting the salary, or who was not getting the remuneration according to or as much he was deserving, or as he was underpaid. So those invigilator, the condition used to be that they were in examination hall. All the students along with Belloc used to sit in a room, and with an invigilator, with an underpaid invigilator, who used to stare at them from a platform above. Then their condition was violent bewilderment, loss of foothold, sinking into the abyss. And now he is sharing us some sample questions which he faced, or which he encountered with. So he is saying, I would see something like this, that such type of questions I used to face, and my response or my guesswork used to be like this: discuss the action of Berengarius at the Council of Blois. Now this is the question, that discuss the action of Berengarius at the Council of Blois. When he faced this question, then what was his thought process, or this revelation? Actually he is giving very experiential detail in order to deliver his message to the readers directly and properly. So he is saying that for example, when I got this question, then I started thinking, I knew vaguely, I started thinking that I knew indistinctly. At that time I was knowing very dimly or indistinctly about council, that okay, I know. When I saw this question, then I was thinking that yes, I know the meaning of this word council, that what council meant. And I had been to Blois, that yes, I went to Blois, I had been to Blois. Blois is a city in France. So beyond that stumped, but beyond that I was at loss. I was not knowing anything. So such a condition, such plight used to have of such is the plight of students while attempting the examination, as he is describing his own. Or again, and the next sample of question is, give the principal attempts at the trisection of the plane angle by the epicycloidal method. Now I could not do so, I failed to do so. I didn't have any idea that how to solve this question. Or again much more. And the third sample he is giving is he has already said that this question was very straightforward, very direct question it was, but this question too I found unable to answer. And such was the encounter or revelation of ignorance, of my ignorance during the examination. So such are the advantages of examination. It is not a menace at all. The third question, which was straightforward, was mention in their order the places visited by Saint Paul in his nth missionary journey. Now it is a very straightforward, very direct question, in which the candidate or the student is supposed to answer the order of the places visited by Saint Paul. Now, Saint Paul is not an anonymous personality or entity. Saint Paul is one of the greatest apostles of Jesus Christ. Now, in his nth missionary zeal, he had to order the places and nothing doing. But then too, Belloc is saying that he was blank at that time. He didn't know the answer of this question, even this direct or straightforward question. So such is the revelation of ignorance during the examination. Next paragraph. And one more thing, that opposing to the notion, the famous or the popular notion about modern system of examination, here Belloc is of the view that examination are not menace, they are good, though he himself was intimidated by those examinations. But he is saying that they are good in terms of revealing our ignorance about so many things. Next paragraph. I say that the soul receives great profit by correction of this kind. So in this way, this process of examination is profitable, is beneficial actually for the soul, because it correct its so many whims, or so many we can say it corrects our notions about ourselves, that we know about the things, but when we face the same things in examination, we become blank, or we think that it actually it happens, or we come face to face about our improper, we can say, or half a little knowledge is a dangerous thing, a little knowledge about the things in the examination. So it is a correction process, and it is good for soul. No man who has been examined but has at least come upon the knowledge of his own ignorance, which is the beginning of learning. So there is no man who has been examined and who has not come to know about his ignorance. Yes, surely he will be or he will be divulged, or the state of his ignorance will be divulged to him during the examination. Surely it will happen, and the revelation or the acknowledgement of ignorance is a beginning of learning. So examinations are good because they reveal our ignorance to us, and ignorance is good because this encounter with our ignorance, or this acknowledgement of ignorance, is a step towards learning. There are some indeed so strong hearted and so same that they approach examinations daily from the very standpoint of ignorance. So you're saying that yes, it is the fact that after or during the examination, a person comes to know about his ignorance, but this is not enough until we don't take a step towards learning. Yes, we are ignorant about those so many things, but this is not a matter of pride. This is not only a matter of pride. We should also do some efforts or endeavors to dispel that darkness of ignorance, and to go in the light of knowledge. But there are some strong hearted person who are so resilient and enduring in their attitude that they approach examination, or they encounter examination on daily basis from the very standpoint of ignorance, but they are in their same state. They are not moving ahead from that ignorant state. Just like now, here Belloc is comparing those people who are strong hearted, or we can say here he's calling them strong hearted ironically, that ironically they are strong hearted. They are so strong hearted that they know their ignorance, but they are doing nothing about it. They are at the same place and same phase like those, and they are like whom? These such people are like whom? Like those bluff travelers who, meeting the aristocracy of a foreign land, grin openly at them for mountebanks. So they are just like those bluff travelers. Bluff are persons who, those bluff travelers, bluff is a trickster or fraud person, or who is good in fraud, or we can say in performing false dealings. like those bluff travelers. And travelers are bluff because they are good in deceiving others, who meeting the aristocracy of a foreign land. And these bluff travelers, these are bluff travelers because when they meet aristocracy or the rich people of a foreign land, or when they move to foreign land, then they show or they present themselves in such a manner that they are not foreign. They deceive the aristocracy of foreign land as a very native person, and they we can say insolently grin. They show their teeth. In order to show their smile, they show their teeth openly at them for mountebanks. Mountebanks is deceiving the person or selling something for the personal profit. So they do their dealings with the people deceivingly. They have the deceptive performances, and they grin openly. In that deceptiveness, they grin openly at them, at those other people of foreign lands, for mountebanks, for their dealings which are deceptive, which are false, they are charlatan, keep their end up superbly in the vast saloons of Rome, of Warsaw, of Vienna. So these bluff travelers, what they do, they carry through their dealings so superbly in such a manner in vast saloons. Saloons are large apartments or halls for assemblies. So in vast saloons of Rome, of Warsaw, of Vienna, and go out contented with a smile, and after performing their task, which is full of deceit, which is full of deceiving process, they go out with a satisfactory smile, yet broader than that which dignified their entrance. And that with such a smile, with the more broad or with a broader smile than the smile with which they entered in those saloons. That means they unashamedly and without any shame of deceiving, of keeping people in deception, these bluff travelers enter with a smile and move out or go out with more or with broader smile than earlier. So the people who are ignorant, and when during the examination process their ignorance come upon them or fall upon them, but they don't do anything about it, they are insolent. They are insolent, just like those bluff travelers who smile after performing their deceitful or their false tasks. I hope you have got this. Next line, of such was the young student. Now he is giving one example, one instance that that such type of person was a young student of divinity. Of such was the young student of divinity, later possessed of a cure of souls in the Isle of Man and quaintly affecting medieval customs. And he was the person who later in his life, what he claimed, this student of divinity, who was earlier a student of divinity, but later in life he used to claim, or he claimed, that he is possessing a cure of souls in the Isle of Man. Here Isle of Man is an island in Ireland, Isle of Man is an island in Irish Sea. And quaintly, and this man cunningly, what he was doing, quaintly affecting medieval customs, with by taking advantage of certain medieval customs, cunningly he claimed that he is possessing a cure of souls. So such was the student, this young student of divinity. And what was his incident and what was the result of his attitude? Let's see. Who, being set a certain examination paper to test his qualifications for holy orders. So he had to attempt actually an examination paper in order to qualify for holy orders. Read its terms. So when he faced this examination paper, he read its terms, he read its instructions very carefully, and discovered, and after reading the instructions, what he discovered in the examination paper, he discovered that of 6 questions he was to select 3. There were total 6 questions and he had to select 3 which he was supposed to answer. Of those 6 questions, one half meant nothing to him whatsoever. And of those 6 questions, one half, that means 3 questions, meant nothing else. He was knowing, he was having no idea about anything about those questions. One half meant nothing to him whatsoever, nothing else. They mentioned things of which he had no more heard, and there were such things in those 3 questions about which he had no idea, that they were mentioning such things about he had even not heard in his life. Then there were certain words like Colossians or Ephesians. Colossians is the 12th book of New Testament, and Ephesians is the 10th book of New Testament. And these are about this also he was not sure, and he was saying that are they persons or the books, as in the next line you can see, or whoever they were. His guesswork was that whoever they were, I have no idea about these persons or these books. At the first century, yet heard of the Holy Ghost, that are they belong to first century, but he had heard about Holy Spirit, just that he was knowing. So that's why he discarded those questions, because he was not idea, not even, he was not having any recalling that he had heard about them. So next, but the other 3 questions, they contained at least a word about which he had heard, and he was a little familiar with them. So but the other 3 contained each a word which he had heard before. He carefully put a little cross against each such questions. Then what he did, he carefully put a little cross in order to attempt his these questions. He put a little cross against each such questions, and they were as follows. And these questions were, which were in the examination paper of this student of divinity. What do you know of the Council of Chalcedon? Second was Solomon justified in his treatment of the Apollinarians? Third question, what is the distinction between the Cyprianic and Augustinian attitude towards the Western Patriarchate? So these were the 3 questions. Now, and this student of divinity was knowing a word, at least a word. He was knowing about at least a word in these questions. So that's why he began writing about them. So what he did, let's see. He wrote each of these questions out in a fair, round, crinkly hand, leaving a little space below each. What he did, he wrote each of these questions at first in a very mechanical way, or in a very graceful way. He wrote at first these questions in a very fair, round, crinkly, or scholarly, we can say, in a very scholarly manner. He wrote these questions by leaving a little space for the answer, because he was so confident about the answer that he left just a little space already for these questions, a little space below each questions. Then in each of these spaces he solemnly wrote. Solemnly means very seriously and somberly he wrote. For the first, the answer was nothing. So the question we should see, the question was, what do you know of the Council of Chalcedon? Nothing. He was so confident in answering them. Such are the people about which we were talking, bluff traveler, or the people who are ignorant, but then they are in the same state even after acknowledging their ignorance. So he said nothing. Was Solomon justified? He will say no. What is distinction between the Cyprianic? So distinction, what he said? He said none, no distinction. So such was his attitude and confidence in answering these questions. By leaving the space, in that space he filled these 3 words, nothing for the second, no for the third, none, and that's all. Having thus completed his paper, he went up and presented it to the invigilator, bowed, and walked out. So this was his presentation, and he walked out with full confidence. And what about other candidates? The flagelling clerics. Flagelling means inexperienced, who were aspirants or who were emerging clerics around him, who were also attempting the paper, they envied the facility of his erudition. They felt very jealous that how erudite he is, how swiftly he has completed his paper. They were feeling envy, the facility of his profound erudition, profound knowledge, the rapidity, the swiftness of his completed task, that how swiftly he has attempted his paper, and his early liberation and also his early freedom, that he that as he has completed the paper, so he was free to go. So his early liberation into the happy sunlight of an Oxford June, but he was ploughed. So they were feeling envy, though they were feeling envy, but later what was the result of this man, this student of divinity? He was ploughed. He was ploughed is here slang, which means failing in examination. He was failed in that examination. He was declared failed. The student of divinity was declared failed. So such is the result. So in this way we can infer that by hinting towards this incident of student of divinity, Belloc seems to convey that such attitude, or remaining in ignorance even after acknowledging the ignorance, not stepping or not taking a step towards learning, is not the result is not good. If such is the attitude of the person in remaining in ignorance and not moving ahead from that phase or from that state, so such is the consequence, that as he was failed. So this is what we can unpack from these lines, and I stop at this point today. We'll continue this essay in the next lecture. Thank you for now.